Hi, this is Ren,
This is Casey.
and this is All Walks of Film. And factory farming is bad, you guys.
It's bad. Okay. We don't want to do that. Okay.
So, we just watched Okja.
You saw it for a second time because you lucky bastard got the advance in theater screening. I had to wait. I had to fucking wait for it to come out on Netflix like, every other normal person.
It does kind of suck because this is like a great theater movie, and a lot of people won't get to experience the movie that way because it came straight to Netflix.
But a lot of the effects hold up on the small screen. That's what I'm really happy about, because you were talking about how amazing the effects were, but when you watch Planet of the Apes in theaters and you watch it at home, I'm not saying it's suddenly bad when you go home, but there's a noticeable difference in quality, and that's mostly what I was jelly of, but the effects look amazing.
Yeah, the effects are really good. Some of the physics of it is a little wonky at some points, but it's
on the small
really
screen, I don't think so.
it's really small stuff that's really nitpicking.
But there's a lot of bouncing the lamp in the movie that makes it a lot more believable.
Yeah, no, this movie is a very technically impressive movie, and it would be nice to see this movie nominated. However, the subject matter of this movie, in and of itself,
Hollywood people are going to be too sensitive to it and be like, no, we're not going to nominate it. Plus, it's Korean films, and we don't nominate Korean films for fucking anything, so no.
I will say it's kind of funny that this is like the most anti-Hollywood film that's come out in a while.
Pretty much the most anti-Hollywood movie since Bong Joon-ho's last movie.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is practically a parody of the Family Animal movie.
You say that, but I disagree.
Oh,
Okay, so, without getting into spoilers, I give it an A+. I think it's fucking awesome.
yeah, it's one of my top favorite films of the year.
Definitely.
There are a couple that are a little bit more impressive to me, but that's
War is a
personal
better
taste.
movie.
Well, I mean, War, I personally like Raw a little bit more, but
I like Raw a little bit more too, but I think that the subject matter is really pertinent. Just like with War and Raw, though. I mean, a lot of my favorite movies are about timely modern social issues. That's exactly what Okja is. I didn't watch any trailers, I didn't read any articles. I'd seen like a couple of photographs maybe, and I kind of knew Tilda Swinton was in it. But besides that, I just went in blind, and I really liked it. I mean, I kind of knew it was about factory farming a little bit, but that element of the movie came out really well, I think. The acting is phenomenal from everybody, but especially the little girl playing Mingja. She's not even a little girl, I'm sorry. But she's fantastic. I really want to see her in more stuff. She's done like 14 other things, like a handful of movies, handful of TV shows. But she's fantastic. She was really charismatic, really wonderful to watch. I really liked her.
Tilda Swinton is great.
She's a fantastic actress. You know, there's some stuff to be said about her tone deafness, but, in this case, she wasn't overstepping her bounds, and her acting came out really well. And the effects for her, too, were also really good. It's really well made. The visual effects are great. The costume design is phenomenal. I was so happy with a lot of the production design work and a lot of the script work. It's a movie that makes you mad at the movie in a good way. Because you were watching me and you were like, what the fuck? What are you bitching about? And I was bitching at the story, not at the filmmaking. That sounds weird, but like you look at you look at characters in the movie who are assholes, and you look at situations in the movie that are bullshit, and you look at like some of the cultural appropriation sort of points in the movie. But it's all good filmmaking to tell a story. It's not filmmakers not understanding. It's actually filmmakers having a very intuitive sense of understanding. And obviously with Bong Joon-ho as the creator, and him already establishing himself as a bilingual director, being able to work in both the Korean and American spectrum very, very well. I would say much better than other Korean directors, especially. Like, I'm sorry, Park Chan-wook doesn't hold a candle to Bong Joon-ho in terms of his universality, and especially his ability to work with American sensibility.
Right, and when it comes to East Asian directors, I think other than Ang Lee, He's like the real standout, because a lot of times, given the fact that Western and Eastern culture is so dramatically different, oftentimes when they make films in the United States, they tend to overcompensate or think that we want to see movies differently because they watch our movies, and they tend to over exaggerate some of our elements, and it just feels kind of off.
Yes, but I also think that is also a thing of the director is never the single voice of a film. And I think a lot of it comes down to people being able to work together. And in a lot of cases, especially when you have the cultural gap and you have the language gap, that's a lot more difficult, if not entirely impossible. And Bong Joon-ho's done a really good job of overcoming that obstacle and being able to work with both Korean actors, American actors. He's been able to work with American producers and pitch his films to American audiences when they include Korean characters, when they include bilingual settings. In this case, a lot of the movie takes place in Korea too, and it still works very well. He's not cheapskating the Korean side or the American side. He's playing both of them very honestly.
I was a little worried when I started watching this film because I've seen about 5 Bong Joon-ho films before this, and I was a little worried at the very beginning just because I felt the tone was a little too goofy. Once some of the darker elements started coming in, I was like, okay, I can see where this is going, but like I wasn't really sure like what the target audience was at the very beginning, and I had an argument with a friend after watching the movie about who this should actually be marketed for. He thought it was a kids film. I told him that there are elements in this movie that are very not kids film. Yeah, don't have your kids watch this. They will seriously be scarred and will probably be crying for a couple days. So yeah, this is a movie for you.
And here's the thing that I think about that. I think that what this movie does very smartly, and in my case I think this is the strongest choice the movie could have made, is the movie isn't engaging for children. It's engaging for adults' inner child, which is a very big difference. I think that the movie, considering that the subject is about factory farming, it's engaging with a child, like with your inner child's sensibility of, well, you love animals, right? Like, you love dogs, you love cats. If you go to a farm, you see the cows, you see the pigs, you see horses, you see livestock, and you love it because you get to know them as actual beings. And then the movie needs to trample that idea, this concept of what we think farming is in a modern age, especially in America, with the brutal reality of, no, this is what it's actually like, you guys. And I think that that's really important, and I think that that was a very strong choice for the director to make. I don't think that the director was being like, oh, well, we're gonna be goofy because I like that in little kids, and then suddenly it makes a total shift that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Especially because in America, a lot of organic farmers, a lot of independent farmers, a lot of people who are able to humanely kill livestock, who are able to grow foods without GMOs, who are able to, make unpasteurized milk, that sort of a thing, are either being run out of business, being sued by the government, or having their livestock taken away and tortured. Because the American government is completely not okay with this. We live in a country where it's illegal to collect rainwater. Not even to collect rainwater and drink it, just to collect rainwater. That's illegal in our fucking country. It's illegal to live off the grid. It's illegal to live without electricity or live without plumbing or whatever. And part of that is killing out this idea of farming in this nice traditional sense that we like to think of in a more naturalized setting versus factory farming. That's the end goal for the FDA, for the American government, for the actual factory farm system. And a lot of elements of this movie really play into how nefarious that is. Like, there's a character in the movie who is sickened by the idea of eating a grape because grapes are grown, or not a grape, a tomato, because the tomato is grown with GMOs, with gases, with poisonous pesticides. Even the idea of doing that just disgusts him and he can't eat it, and it's making him physically weak. He can't survive. Because if you actually uphold these same standards that when you know logically, hey, factory farming is bad, the animals are mistreated, the animals are tortured, the plants are covered in pesticides, they're grown with GMOs, they're doing terrible things to our body. This is where this gluten epidemic is coming from, is because we didn't used to have wheat and grain that had toxic levels of gluten in them. We didn't used to breed grains this way. There's even this thing like you can copyright your crops so other people can't grow your crops. It's so bullshit. But, you know, once you start thinking about these things, it's like, okay, so what can I eat? And it's like, you can't eat anything, dude. And when you hear people like PETA and ALF and, you know, the Humanitarian Society with their Meatless Monday campaigns, it's nice to think like, well, I'll just be a vegetarian. You know, I just won't engage in the meat aspect. But it's so much more insidious than that. It's hitting the crops, it's hitting the meat, it's hitting everything that you eat. And especially a lot of things that are affordable and accessible aren't even edible food. It's fucking chemical. And I think that the movie needed to hit that point of, oh, but we think farming is like this, and then hit you with the reality of, no, it's like this and worse than you think, and it's everywhere and you can't get around it. I think that that's what the entire point of the film was about.
Yeah, I also like how the movie satirizes the whole concept of the happy pigs, which...
Yes.
One criticism that I will give the movie is the fact that it's a little bacon light. In our country, we have an obsession with bacon, and the fact that I didn't really see that much bacon in this movie, when there are bacon fests, there's bacon flavored. I mean, hell, the YouTube channel.
Burgers.
What's Epic Mealtime?
Oh, yeah.
The big joke is like bacon on everything. But yeah, there are
people. It's the Louis C.K. joke too, but it doesn't have bacon. I don't like to put bacon. You know,
if I was gonna send the movie for one thing, it would be the lack of bacon.
Yeah, because you only see like little tiny sausage links at one point, and then you see like some jerky, and that's about it. Like some meat sticks, you know. One of the things I really liked in the movie is the movie pointed out that like poor people are gonna eat it. If it's cheap, poor people are gonna fucking eat it, and it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Yeah,
I really liked that point too, because it's one of the things that is kind of known about this country, that, you know, the rich eat healthy and the poor people eat what's provided to them. And oftentimes you wonder to yourself, why is it that in the United States, the poor people are overweight and the rich people are healthy and fit? Well, first of all, it has to do with work and the fact that poor people have to work longer hours. And oftentimes this is sitting down or standing in one place, you know, doing the same thing over and over and over again. So they're not getting a lot of movement. And yeah, sometimes they'll like munch down on something to like keep them going throughout the day. You know, sometimes food is something that you consume to enjoy. I wasn't really raised in that kind of concept. Like, I do eat food, but I'm not like one of those like enjoy food people, which makes me like really weird to a lot of people in the United States. But that's just me.
I don't really think that makes you weird. Me being a poor person, I think all the time how much, oh God, I wish I didn't have to eat. I wish I didn't have to eat right now. I wish I didn't have to interrupt my work or interrupt my day and figure out what is the cheapest and healthiest balance for me to eat at any particular point. You know, because usually you can't do one or the other. You can't do both. It has to be one or the other. And I think that was something really important that the movie brings up. It's not that poor people just don't give a fuck, or that poor people are uneducated and they just don't understand the way it works. It's just poor people don't have enough. And that's what most people are like. And unfortunately, we're in a point where we're getting to the point where little kids are doing that too, because their parents are working all the time. They're working one job 40 hours a week. They're working 2 jobs at 60 hours a week. They're working 3 jobs at 80 hours a week. And they can only afford and have the time to go to a McDonald's drive-in or something like that.
Right, and while there is some healthy food that does taste good, it's kind of hard to find, especially when you don't know a lot about it. Because then you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat healthy and I'm going to have this, and then you have it and you're like, ugh. Yeah, well, it feeds into this whole indoctrination that these companies have.
But that's a lot of what the movie's about. A lot of the movie is about marketing strategies, about the public image, the brainwashing of normal people into thinking that this horrific, terrible, GMO-written, torturous event for mass-produced meat is totally awesome and wonderful and really well researched and studied, and they're all organically grown and GMO free, and there's only like 26 of them, so you're part of this special club when you eat it, and it's gonna be like this future for ending world hunger and all this bullshit. That's all like the facade that the movie is trying to talk about.
So let's get into the design of Okja.
The piggy hippo.
It was a pig hippo dog, sort of. It was like a combination of all those things
With a
together.
Gudetama butt.
I really like the fact that this creature had anatomy, which is something you don't often see with CGI characters because they're just like, oh yeah, we're just not gonna render those parts.
Right, but Okja has a butt and a butthole that you can see inside, and one giant nipple. And yes, the movie clarifies it's a nipple. I thought it was a clit until I saw a close-up of it, and I was like, it's a nipple, but there's only one. What the fuck? So I think that was a little bit of censorship.
I thought it was a penis at first, but right, but I thought it was a penis because at that point in the film, I had not clarified that Okja's gender was female, and it was like right after that, I was like, oh, okay. So what is that? And then...
It's one giant nipple.
Yeah, and it's hard to actually get that fact.
It's not
in
really a nipple, though. It's more like an udder, because it's got like the boob and the long and...
But it's like a sideline that one character says that like you literally had to
really fast.
Yeah, they say it really fast, and you have to like pause it at like right moment, put on the subtitles. Yeah, but it's in the film. I swear.
Okja is a lady pig.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting that one of the things that made it like the hybrid, like the super advanced species, was they increased the intelligence. Because pigs, I mean, obviously we like to put all animals after humans, but after humans, in quotation marks, the third most intelligent animal is the pig. So it was kind of cool that the movie incorporated that Okja was particularly intelligent.
Right. From strategizing how to save Mija with the
rope
branch.
And the stick and all that.
Yeah.
Although after watching The Revenant, I was like, "There's no way Okja survived that fall. What the fuck?" It's like bullshit, but okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
at first
whatever.
I thought they were just gonna replace.
They kind of made Okja like ridiculously flexible. Like she can just hit a tree and her back is fine. She could just fall on trees from a cliff and she's totally fine.
Also, one of the things that I thought was really interesting that I'm not really sure why this was, but Okja is incredibly gentle even when threatened, which didn't necessarily like. Yes, there are some animals, and that's like where I got into the whole dog thing. Because, like, obviously, if a pig feels threatened, it's gonna attack. But,
well, especially something like a boar or a hippo. A hippo is actually one of the very few man-eating animals.
But I did think it was kind of weird that there wasn't ever a sense of that kind of danger in the film. Of, like, Okja intentionally hurting somebody or something.
There was the part where Okja hurt Mija. She bit Mija's arm and she was bleeding, but it wasn't fatal or mutilating or anything like that.
Right,
the movie kind of brushes it off. It's not a big deal.
Okja never attacked any of the other people or anything like that. This is light spoilers.
But I also think, like, I really tried not to have any spoilers, and I saw the movie and I was like, you know, if I knew these things, it's not going to hurt the movie, because a lot of the movie's strength is in the way it's delivered.
Yeah, also, this movie follows a very familiar plot line. I joke that this movie is practically a parody of Gordy, you know, with the slaughterhouse and, like, all that kind of stuff. Like, there are certain beats that are similar to that movie, which I think's like really odd because it's like this obscure ripoff of Babe. Granted, it came out before Babe, but
it's a ripoff
they
of
were
Babe
working.
Before Babe.
No, it's how Disney rips off. They find out about a project and then they pump it out faster.
It's exactly like, oh, The Thief and the Cobbler is the ripoff of Aladdin, even though they were in pre-production they were in production for 30 years before Aladdin even fucking came out.
Or like this new Jungle Book that's coming out. People are like, "Oh, why are they making a
Disney?"
Yeah, why are they making another Jungle Book?" It's like, no, actually Disney stepped in and said, "Hey, we're going to make our movie first."
You're literally not allowed to put out your movie until a year after our movie.
So when you're complaining next year of why do we have another Jungle Book movie, that's why. Yeah, and Disney's like, oh, well, how can we make money off of this movie in our live action remake franchise thing that we're doing right now?
Even if you saw Jungle Book last year and you liked it, don't tell me you don't want fucking Andy Serkis to make a Jungle Book movie. And try to tell me you don't think that's going to be a million times better.
Yeah, I will say, like, if that's not for you, then you probably don't like movies starring animals, and why would you watch Okja?
I also thought it was really interesting that the movie didn't make up an animal rights organization. They specifically picked the ALF, which is a real animal rights organization, but it's not PETA. It's not quite PETA levels of bad.
I did think it was interesting, though, because there are some certain tactics that the ALF use that PETA use as well, you know, with the shock value thing.
For sure.
That I get on my Facebook feed sometimes where it's like, dude, I don't want to see fucking footage of animals getting slaughtered just scrolling down.
I completely agree with that. And I'm not saying, like, I stand with the ALF or something like that, but I'm just saying PETA not only, like, is completely 100% a terrorist organization, but they also run around and fucking kill the animals. They're responsible for murdering more animals than they fucking save at the end of the day, on top of just being assholes and being terrorists and harming human beings.
Yeah, there are plenty of other animal organizations that you can participate in without supporting PETA.
Right, exactly. And the ALF, like the movie got right, the thesis of the ALF is to not hurt humans and animals. But exactly like the movie shows, the ALF totally hurts humans and animals. Like I said, it's not quite as bad, but it's not like you can just ignore that and pretend like, oh no, they're totally fine. And I like that the movie, it's a little bit more gentle about it, but it's not like ignoring that. That's still a big part of the movie, is that the ALF are fucking assholes. And they're bad at what they're doing. What they're doing is fucking wrong. It's not the right way to do it at all.
Right.
But it also does a good job of showing exactly why people feel the need to do that. Like, why organizations feel pushed to those extremes.
Yeah, and also, given the fact that while this movie has certain beats that are similar to a kid's movie, why it isn't a kid's movie is because this movie doesn't really pick a side. I mean you can pick, well, you can pick Mija's side, and that's pretty much like the only
good
side.
Yeah. But also Mirando's side is clearly the bad side.
Right.
Mirando spews the horrible, classist, racist, oppressive, systemic ideology. Right,
but it also brings up the question of, well, given the fact that we are destroying our environment and cows are really dangerous to the ecosystem,
very true.
Worse than cars. It is interesting that their solution to that, like a more eco-friendly concept, is this. But
no, because a big part of that too is their solution is more natural livestock growth, which would include having less livestock. Like at the end of the movie, very, very light spoilers, you guys, there's Okja and baby Okja. It's only the two of them. It's not the whole, essentially, concentration camp of animals that's producing methane, that's creating a huge necessity for water production and waste. But yeah, I mean, part of the solution is a reduction on livestock that you would get if you canceled out factory farming. But we do sort of have this thing of, like, we need meat at every meal. Like, half of our food is supposed to be meat. No, it's not. Half of our food is not supposed to be meat. But it's also especially not supposed to be hormone-riddled, tortured, GMO-fied, bullshit, cannibal animals.
Yeah, I will say that I was eating, like, pepperoni and stuff while, like, watching this movie.
That's true. We were eating a pizza with pepperoni and sausage on it.
Yeah, so, you know, really great message that we're sending. But,
yeah,
like,
we're fucking hypocrites. But that's the point, is that it's almost like the movie illustrates with the one character in the ALF. It's impossible. You can't live in America and not be a fucking hypocrite when it comes to the way that you eat. Because guess what else we had? We had fucking vegetables that were sprayed in pesticides. They were probably grown by fucking Monsanto, for God's sake. And then we had dough with all the additional gluten that we've only seen in the past 20 years of grain crops. I mean, everything that we ate was fucking bullshit. But everything we eat is fucking bullshit. We could have been eating a bag of Cheetos. It wouldn't have really made any difference in terms of our hypocrisy while watching Okja.
So, since we're bringing up some of this stuff, like, what are some documentaries that people can watch if this sort of interests them? I mean, the only one I can think the only one I can think of is Food Inc. because that's the only one I've seen.
Food Inc. is like the number one,
right? And
a really interesting one is they all have really catchy, weird names. There's one called like Farm Apocalypse or Apocalypse Farm or something like that, and that's one that's all about how the American government is trying to shut down organic independent farms. There's one that's called like Frankenfood, and it's about these cannibal cows that were grown in Canada, which, I mean, it's not America, but it's North America, and that's where we get our food from. And one thing you're going to realize when you're watching a lot of these documentaries that they keep pointing out is our FDA standards are in America, but also in America, and are the lowest in the world. Because guess what? Other countries don't accept our shitty food because we don't meet their health standards because our food is bullshit.
Right. One of the things that I noticed when I was in Japan is that I could eat the same bullshit that I eat like in the United States. Yeah. All the same bullshit, just, eat it outside in Japan, not on base. And I lost weight.
That's because chicken nuggets are probably actually made with chicken and not chicken bone paste. Because we all know chicken nuggets aren't chicken. That's not actual chicken. Like, we've all seen this footage, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen the footage.
It's pretty disturbing. But guess what? You know what? I've still eaten chicken nugget.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you can afford it, obviously make the conscious decision to, eat healthier. If I could afford
it, I would never eat at a McDonald's or a Burger King ever again in my life.
Yeah, but also you can't eat salad for the rest of your life either, so.
Well, you can't, but salad is pretty fucking good. You go to a place, like we have a place in our neighborhood, our Pub House, well, you know what? The salad is a lot more expensive than the burger.
Yeah.
And the burger's already between $10 to $13, and the salad is like $16. You know what? I'm not gonna buy the fucking salad when I could get a pizza for $10. I mean, the idea of spending $10 on a burger or a salad is already pretty bougie. I'm not gonna lie. But,
I mean, there are some conscious decisions that you can make to eat better, but it's definitely a lot harder. You have to think more about it. You have to go online. You have to look at recipes. You gotta
spend time cooking. You have to spend a lot more time grocery shopping. Like, a lot more time. Usually, unless you could subsist on only Trader Joe's, you're gonna have to go to multiple places to buy your groceries. You're gonna be spending a lot more on your groceries.
The only downside with Trader Joe's sometimes, though, is like a lot of their box ready-to-go meals have a lot of sodium in them. I definitely need to have more greens in my diet.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, a diet should be half vegetable, but that's also almost entirely impossible in the American society. Unless you specifically have AIDS, like Jared from Subway.
Yeah, we talked a lot about food, but
that's the point of the movie.
Exactly. And we didn't want to talk about the movie so much because, like, it's on Netflix. You can watch it.
Yeah, I don't really want to spoil it, but I think that all of the darkest elements of the movie are very well done and very important to the story. I think that that's where the entire theme of the story comes from. I don't think they should be cut. I don't think they should be worked around. I think they're done very well. My only thing with this movie is I fucking hated Jake Gyllenhaal. And I adore Jake Gyllenhaal. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the script or the direction or his personal acting choice. I don't know what it was.
It was his voice.
He was not working.
His voice was grating. It was like nails on a chalkboard.
It was literally just like a drunk version of Mordecai, and I did not need that in this movie.
It was kind of strange because, like, when I heard it, it kind of reminded me of that grating sound with some characters in, like, kids' movies. You know, like, they have, like, this one character that's, like, always, like, really over the top, and they have, like, a really high, squeaky voice, or they have a big, deep, booming voice like that, and it's just, like, watching the movie going, like, why do you need to do this all the time?
I mean, part of the reason too was I was just kind of confused by why his character was even there. I don't know why you needed the drunk, wash up television scientist, like the TV scientist, like pseudoscientist. Like, he was very clearly supposed to be kind of like the crocodile hunter, but like a drunk, washed up version. And I don't know what the point of that was in the. I mean, I get that it was a marketing ploy, and part of it was to try to be like, oh, you know, all the people that you loved when you were a kid because you saw them on TV, they're phony. But I don't know why it was specifically that character archetype.
I think it's kind of going on to the kids channel shows where it's like, hey, look at the animals and all this kind of stuff, but it's like animals that you eat and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if you've seen like these programs, because like they made like this mandate that there's not a lot of kids cartoons anymore, like on Saturday morning. Like, they got rid of Saturday morning cartoons. True. And they replaced it with educational shows, and most of those educational shows are like,
because cartoons can't ever be educational,
right? It's stupid. But turned into like these, like, you know, nature shows where, you know, it's like, hey, we're gonna meet this animal and we're gonna say hi to it, and, you know, like, you know, this is my friend right here, and that's just kind of like, it's one of those things that I noticed like when I was actually going to work and school a couple times, when like I would drop by the Dunkin' Donuts to like pick up my morning coffee. I would see like a little bit of that like playing sometimes, and I would just be like, wow, this is like really kind of like, part of me is like, oh, this is cool, you know, it's teaching kids about the animals, but then it's like, but this isn't really informative, it's just cute.
That makes a lot of sense. I think South Park also kind of satirized that with they tried to have a news show for kids to watch at the school, like the Super Skin News, but then they were being outdone by Craig with his cute animals and wide-angle lens show.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing in our culture that, I mean, one of the things that I criticize John Oliver all the time is, like, he can't talk about the news, like, really hard stories without saying, oh, we're going to talk about this, but then we're going to have a hamster eating a tiny burrito or a taco or whatever.
Yeah. Part of the movie is not only factory farming, but a big part of the movie is marketing and business strategy. And it's like all the bullshit where George Lucas is like, well, no, the Star Wars prequels are dumb. I just made them for children. And it's like, you made the Star Wars prequels about intergalactic trade policies. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, and then when you get older, it's like, wow, this is really dumb politics.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't really appeal to anyone. Okja's not like that. It makes a lot of sense when you're an adult. I'm the number one advocate for, we need dark media for children. We shouldn't be pandering to children. Children do not need dumb media. But at the same time, I think a lot of stuff in this movie is just legitimately too sophisticated for little kids to understand. Because a lot of it's a little too sophisticated for most adults to understand, too. It's hard to really wrap your head around exactly how corporations can function this way and have like this fake two-faced persona and play the political game and, you know, justify to themselves how they act this way. You know, that's already hard enough for fucking adults to comprehend, much less little kids.
Right.
I'm not saying it's because kids are dumb. Kids have a very good understanding of how the world works, and they have an even better understanding of how people work. But that's not really what the movie's about. So, yeah, definitely watch Okja. And if you have seen Okja, let us know what you thought of it. We will probably have another talk about this movie with spoilers. And hopefully with a couple guests. All right, thanks for listening.